And for right now, let's talk to Billy Woodard. So, Colonel, could you tell us exactly what was your rank and position in the Air Force?
Yeah, I was full bird colonel in the Air Force.
This is Colonel Woodard, and goes by the name of Billy, and we're going to be talking today about the Hollow Earth and many other things too, I would imagine. I see a little smile there, so it looks like we're in for it.
Oh, yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Billy.
Well, I was deposited on the surface with my sister, twin sister, and that was back in 1951. So my birth certificate that I have doesn't belong to me. It's to a dead baby that died of bronchial pneumonia. So I don't actually have a birth certificate. Like Obama.
Who are your real parents?
My real parents would be Zora and Soraya.
And they live in the inner earth?
Yes, they do.
So tell us a little bit about your experience in the Air Force.
Well, okay. Maybe I should make a recording and just play the recording over and over. My time in the Air Force was quite unique, to say the least. But after I graduated basic training and advanced training, they asked me where I wanted to go. I said, well, I'm signed up to go to Hawaii. They said, well, where you're signed up to go and where you're going is two different things, as you well know. So I ended up going to the Pentagon at the request of my adopted father. He was stationed at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. At that time, it was the Army Air Corps. It wasn't the Air Force. The Air Force had not come into being at that time. But so he was stationed at Area 51. And one time while we were out having a barbecue, he made the statement, we looked up and we saw something hovering between the clouds, and we looked up, and he looks up and he goes, "Oh, here we go again." We didn't know what he meant by that, but so I asked him about it. So what do you mean, here we go again? He says, well, back in 1947 when I was stationed here, we had a crashed vessel that was in the Lincoln National Forest, and part of it had been torn off from the original craft and strewn over the Brazil Ranch. About 20 feet of it had been torn away from the main craft, and the rest of it came to rest in the Lincoln National Forest. So that's what Roswell was all about. He says the weather balloon was just a cover story to keep unwelcome visitors away from the crash site. But of course that didn't work because there's a lot of people out there looking around.
And what was his name? Your father?
Woodard.
Woodard.
Woodard. Yeah. It's Woodard, not Woodward. People always mistake that, and they put a W in the middle of the last name. But I guess that's common practice. However, I was stationed at the Pentagon with my adopted father, and so they proceeded to tell me that the Pentagon was just my first duty station, and then my next duty station would be in Nevada at a facility out in the Nevada desert, um, which was also on the property of the Nellis Air Force Base.
So you're talking about S4, Dreamland,
Yeah, S4, Dreamland.
Area
S4 and
51.
Dreamland are above the ground, and Area 51 is well below that. The first level of Area 51 is actually 2.5 miles underground,
So what years were you there?
and it goes down from. Did you know that?
No, how far does it go down?
It goes down 27 levels.
So
The first,
while you were there, you must have known Bob Lazar then, huh?
I met him.
Yeah.
I gave him a tour of the facility. I was ordered to give him a tour of the facility due to the fact that he was working with propulsion units and things of that nature. So I was told to give him a tour of our facility, and so I did. I met him at the first level of the Area 51 at the the lift or elevator, if you want to call it that. But it didn't have numbers on the elevator to what levels to go down to or nothing like that. It just came down to that level and that's it. So I escorted him in and showed him around. We showed him the hangar deck where 16 dish-shaped aircraft were stationed, and he was allowed to walk up to them and even go inside. I took him into the craft that I was assigned to for night maneuvers, and I took him inside, and he had to stoop over to get inside. The roof, the ceiling was quite low, and you basically had to stoop over to walk around on the inside. But because the occupants that manned that craft were quite small, about 4.5 to maybe about 4.5 feet tall, and they were round heads, almond-shaped eyes, and they didn't talk. They would speak directly to your mind. They had lips, but they never moved. And it was just whenever you're in their presence, you could actually hear their thoughts, and they could hear yours. So that's how you communicated. You didn't actually talk verbally.
So, Billy, before we go down underneath into Area 51, I would like to just sort of educate the listeners a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. And actually, there's a lot of history for a hollow Earth. I mean, even back to the story of Gilgamesh, where Ishtar, the great goddess of love, of war, is said to have gone down through 7 gates to the underworld. And we have several testimonies from people like Credo Mukwa. He was interviewed by David Icke, and Credo is a Zulu shaman, and he's talking about there's a reptilian race that live underground. And then we have, of course, Admiral Byrd and all the explorers, and we have lots of photographs from space, from NASA. So it's only been recently that I've even started taking this seriously, to be honest with you. It was so far over my head into
understanding
the realms of impossibilities, but something has struck a chord here, and I'm realizing that there's some valid information here. I just did an interview with some people up in Mount Shasta about
All
Telos
right.
and Agartha and all that. So I just want the people listening to this that keep an open mind, because this is so
Oh, yes.
far beyond what our everyday life would predict. It's somewhat like if we were all living, or think we were living, on a flat planet, and we have an explorer coming back saying, no, it's not flat, it's spherical, I just went around the world. As hard as that was for some of the people to grasp, all you have to do is start opening your mind up a little bit and start realizing that there is a body of evidence that really points to the fact that this could be true, and there's geological evidence too. So take us down. What was your experience going down level by level by level? I'm sure that there must be some of the first levels to where some of the people go, but then as I understand it, you reach a certain level and it's actually starting to be more controlled by extraterrestrials.
Talking about Area 51 or
Yeah.
oh yeah. Okay, you go down 16 levels. On the 16th level, the first 16 levels are man machine. Basically, the you heard rumors in the past about people hearing boring machines underground or sounds coming from underground, and that was the Rand Corporation drilling, not drilling, but boring passage and tunnels underneath the ground. If you notice, way in the past there was a lot of troop movements above ground. You all on major highways and things of this nature. You don't see those anymore, mainly because they're all going underground. There, very seldom do you ever see a convoy on the surface. In most cases, when they're transporting from point A to point B, it's underground unless it's local. If it's local, then you might see them on the surface.
So
But
Billy,
hardly
when
ever.
when you're saying this, there's something that comes to mind, because I've heard a
Yeah.
similar story like this, and what comes
Yes.
to mind is, how are they keeping? Like, I can see how they can keep a general quiet with disclosure agreements in Leavenworth and 20 years and all that, but how are they
Right.
keeping so many private soldiers on a private level from talking about this?
Well, they basically threaten them bodily harm. And I myself, I've even been threatened myself. But like I told them, I'm not really concerned about you because I am protected, and they know it. So they came to my home when I was at Mount Shasta a few years back. Government agents dressed in black came to my house, knocked on my door. I opened the door, and there was a man and two men and one woman, all dressed in black. They said, "May we come in?" And I said, "Absolutely." They come in. They identified themselves. They pulled their identification out, showed it to me. I said, "Okay, fine, have a seat." And they proceeded, right off the bat, they proceeded to tell me, "You are to stop and desist from telling any more that you have done in the service." I said, "And why should I comply to that?" They said, "Because if you don't, we are prepared to take your life." I said, "I'm not worried about you. I am protected." And they said, "Well, what about if we were to pull one of our weapons and shoot you?" And I said, "Your weapon will not fire."
Well, obviously you're still around, and I think probably some of your best protection is being really visible. I know I've been
Yes.
listening to Stephen Greer with this Disclosure Project, and he has over
Uh-huh.
400 people. 2 of them are generals and flight
Yep.
controllers and people that have observed UFOs and have actually been working with extraterrestrials. And some of the military people are saying that extraterrestrials are actually at the Pentagon, and they want to testify in front of Congress. And they're thinking that even though they're breaking their disclosure agreements and risking 20 years in Leavenworth, they're thinking it with a massive amount of people, like 400 people testifying in front of Congress, they're not going to throw them all in jail, because that would be worse than just leaving them alone. So I think high visibility is one of your safeguards also.
Yes, it is. If you stay silent and under their control, then they feel they have control of you. But when you take away their control, when you tell them, "I'm not worried about you, do your worst," they realize that. Like in my case, they said when I got out of the military and I told them what I was going to. I even told them I was going to, relay what I did in the military, what Area 51's about, and they said, "Well, we're not worried about that because no one will believe you."
Right.
And so, and I said, "Fine," and they even took away my pension to try to shut me up. I had upwards of $4,500 to $5,000 a month pension coming to me, and when I started, going talking at different places, they sent me a warning letter stating that I should not talk about what I did in the military, and consequences could be forfeiture. I can't even say it now. Forfeiture of my pension, and I said, "Take it," and it did.
Yeah, they have no trouble taking it.
No, they had no trouble at all. I got a notification at the end of the month saying your benefits or your pension has been terminated by order of the president.
So, Billy, where do you think this is going to end up? I think, first of all, I should tell you that I had a UFO experience. So I know.
You have?
I know. Yeah. When I was 10 years old, coming out here from Ohio to California on the train, it was late at night, and I got up. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. We're probably in Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere out in the desert, and there was a glow that came over the inside of the train cab. As I got up to walk to get me a glass of water, as walking back, just everything turned a glowing red, and when I sit down in my seat, there was a cigar-shaped spacecraft following the train, and I would say it must have been at least 150 feet, because it was longer than our car, and along the side of it, the whole body was sort of a glowing red, and the whole side of it looked like windows, but I doubt if they were, but it looked like portals all along the side, and it followed us for about a minute and a half. Then it went up over the train to the other side, and you could see all the light shift, and it followed us for another 30 seconds or 40 seconds and just shot off and disappeared. So ever since that sighting, I knew that there's something beyond what I was being told. And at a young age like that, it was like a crack in the dam of indoctrination. And so I've questioned everything. I pretty much doubted everything. I wrote a book recently about the social and neurological consequences of belief systems, because we have been so heavily indoctrinated by our government, religions, and political institutions and corporations that most people live so far behind veils of illusions that what you're saying, a lot of them are going to turn it off by now. They're going to think there's nothing viable, nothing of value, and nothing real about this. What would you say to a person like that would hold their attention to at least open their minds up to this?
I would tell them that they're dead, because if you don't expand your mind to the point of accepting a possible alternate reality, then you're closed-minded, and you're just not living. And you know, what you saw was a mobile transport craft transporting um, uh, dignitaries from other star systems. That was probably in the Dulce, New Mexico area where you were, um, because there is a base located in that area, UFO base, uh, and it's not far from the Dulce complex. So, and there's AMRAIL or train tracks that go right alongside, not too far from that landing port. So that's probably what you were seeing was the mobile transport from that area. Um, they Now, besides Area 51, there's other areas that are also of interest, which are also highly classified. Rising Star, Texas is one of those places. Um,
Like
there
Pine
was an
Gap,
incident. Pardon me.
like Pine Gap.
Uh,
Yeah, there's different military bases all over the planet that are
yes,
increasing
yes,
their seclusion and increasing their privacy.
yes,
Are
there
these
are.
are these bases hooked up to this underground tunnel system?
Yes, they are. All military bases are interconnected to the what you call I call it the spoked wagon wheel uh, uh, tunneling systems that branch out from Area 51. Some of the tunnels are even quite extensive. Some of them even go underground, underneath due west, uh, straight out to the underground, underwater, pardon me, the undersea crystalline pyramid off the coast of Hawaii, the north end of the island. You also have another pyramidal shaped structure not far from Catalina Island. And there's tunnels that go to those. Those are unfortunately those are uh, not accessible to the military.
How does this have
Uh,
to? How does this hook up with like Stargates? Like in Iraq, we're building a $1 billion military base in a country that we're supposed to be leaving, and some people say that there's a Stargate there. Are these tunnels hooked up to some of these areas also?
yes, they are absolutely.
So, what do you think a Stargate is?
A Stargate. Well, if for one, the Stargate is not a circle, as you see, as it's portrayed on the TV. Similar, but not quite. It's octagon
Yeah,
shaped.
that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's octagon shaped, but it's not a. The rings do not rotate. In essence, you dial in a destination, and the portal does open. It does look like water. It looks like liquid water, uh, similar to the uh, one you see on TV, but not exact. Um, it does take you to other worlds. It does take you to other time periods. It can either be a time portal, or it can also be a intergalactic portal. Uh, but currently, the use of it is somewhat limited, uh, to the point where only you're only allowed to travel to certain destinations. Other destinations are blocked off or sealed. You can't go to them. And
Do you think
they
that?
do have that.
Do you think that us here on Earth? Do you think we're being confined to the planet right now to some degree?
Well, in a sense, yes. Um, Mainly because the Earth Mother Earth, Terra, has started her ascension to the fifth dimensional phase, or existence, if you will. And basically the Federation of Planets want to keep people on the surface pretty much in the dark. Well, not totally in the dark, but only to the degree that they don't go gallivanting up through the universe before they're ready. And the Federation of Planets also know that the ascension of Mother Earth has started already, and until that's complete, they don't want us going. They don't want us venturing out too far, because the entire planet is going through a change to the fifth dimension. You are currently in the fourth.
So, Billy, have you had any experience with other entrances to the Hollow Earth? Like the Hopi Indians have legends about the Hollow Earth, and they talk about a hole called Sipapu, which is the entrance to the Hopi underground, and it's a sacred place of pilgrimage for the Hopi at the bottom of the canyon of the Little Colorado, above its junction with the Colorado River. So apparently there are openings. I don't know if they're dimensional openings or actual physical openings, because when I was doing my interview with some people from Mount Shasta, it's actually more of a dimensional opening in the back of Mount Shasta, where the people that live down in there, the Agarthians, where they come out interdimensionally, and then they slow their vibration down to where they can materialize on a three-dimensional level. Have you ever experienced or been to any of these kind of openings?
You're speaking of Mount Shasta?
Anywhere.
Well, yes, I have. On Mount Shasta, and let's see, you go to Lower Panther Meadow campground, and you set up your camping gear. If you go up the mountain, going toward the Upper Panther Meadow, in between Lower Panther Meadow and Upper Panther Meadow, there is an opening. It is holographic in nature. The covering is, because it looks like a big rock face, actually, and if your heart and mind are in the right place at the time you're there, a guide will appear, and he will ask you if you wish to go in. And if that happens, then you can guarantee that you're ready to go in. Otherwise, if you're not, if your vibration level is not right, meaning that you're more materialistic thinking, or more concerned about your own welfare, not welfare,
survival,
your own livelihood or whatever, and you basically put you think you're above everyone else, or I'm not quite sure how to put this. You have to be right, otherwise they won't let you in, because they live in total harmony, total peace and joy. They have no thoughts of malice, no thoughts of exploitation. They love you dearly, and they're quite concerned for your welfare. And they are the Lemurians. They're not the Agarthians. They are the Lemurians. They're part of the Agarthian network of cities that are in the Earth's crust, but their origin is Lemurian.
So these are the 25,000 Lemurians, or so that escaped Lemuria before it went down?
Yeah, well, see, Lemuria, the continent of Lemuria, there are remains, islands on the surface that was part of the Lemurian continent. The center of the Lemurian continent would have been Hawaii, and also the people of Lemuria did not live on the surface of Lemuria; they lived underground, cities on the continent. The reason that they didn't live on the surface was because at that time, that's when the dinosaurs were walking the face of the earth. And so they didn't want to intermingle with them, so they lived underground, in their underground cities. So people are under the impression that Lemuria was a thriving metropolis on the surface, and it wasn't. It was all the people lived underground, and they had artificial sunlight, things of this nature. But the reminiscences of Lemuria that are still above water would be Hawaii, Easter Island, New Zealand, Australia, the Philippines, Japan, the Aleutian Islands of Alaska, British Columbia, down to the state of Oregon, Washington, Oregon, into Northern California, down through Baja California, and then back over to Easter Island. That was the entire continent of Lemuria, which took up almost the entire Pacific Ocean. So that was Lemuria, or Mu, if you want to call it that. But the origin of the Lemurians is from a planet called Lemur. Lemur is what the scientists of today are calling Nibiru, or Planet X. But that's Lemur. It's 5 times the mass of Earth, and it's on an elliptical orbit, and it's on its way back in. Next question.
Yeah, well, I did a lot of research with the Anunnakis and the Epic of Gilgamesh and the story of creation, the Sumerian tablets. And there does seem to be a planet that's within our solar system, because they can see that there's a slight tug on the outer planets, and it's getting stronger. And actually in 1987, NASA put out a press release saying this, but it was quietly and quickly hushed up, and they've never spoken of it since. So I think there's a lot of things happening that people really need to wake up to, because I think as 2012 approaches, we're going to see a lot of different radiations entering into our atmosphere that's going to trigger a lot of our genetic codes, and probably turn some of our genetics on to where we're not using so much of our genetics right now. A lot of this is going to be turned on, which will change our consciousness and our awareness. But I think stories like what you're coming out with is important, because it makes people's minds stretch a little bit, even if they don't totally believe it, to open up to the possibility. Because as things start changing, if it's too dramatic of a change, a lot of people are going to shut down, and it's going to be really tough. But for the people that are opening up to the possibilities of this, it's going to be an incredible adventure, and it's probably why a lot of us are even here.
You're right. You asked me about entrances that are going to the Hollow Earth. Let me give you a few of them. One of them, of course, is Mount Shasta, but there are others. Pardon me. There are others that are also just as accessible. There is also in the Grand Canyon, there's a gentleman, I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. His name was Hank Craftsman, and he was a gentleman that lived in, he was in construction and engineering, and he found a guide which was named Carl Kopavi Waltz. And he was a guide assigned to him by way of the Hopi Tribal Council of Nine to take Craftsman, to the opening at Sifu and the way they went was to get on the mule trail that goes to the upper trail that goes above the Little Colorado River, and he was blindfolded about halfway through the down the trail, and from that point on he held onto this burro for dear life because he didn't want to fall. And so he went, was blindfolded, and they took him to a certain location, and then they finally stopped. He said it seemed like hours that they were traveling, but so they stopped. They unblindfolded him, and Carl Kapavi Waltz escorted him up to a rock face and told him to put his hand upon it. He did, and his hand passed through the rock. So at that point, they continued walking into the stone, into a dark room. As soon as they entered into the room, it lit up like a daylight. And you can see all the surroundings in it. There was artifacts in there of gold and brass and copper and a few other things, but a whole bunch of quartz crystal. And he was then told to follow Carl down a tunnel, and they went down the tunnel. They came to a conveyance, sort of like a sled that you lay down on, and as you lay down on it, it begins to move. And when he gets up to its top speed, it is moving faster than the speed of light. And it went straight, he said it seemed like only minutes, just very few minutes, and it came to a stop. And he disembarked off the craft and was facing 3 doors with symbols on them. And his guide, Carl, said, "Choose a door." And he says, "Which door do I choose?" He said, "Well, if you choose the wrong door, then you'll have problems. If you choose the right door, you will go to Palakawape, which is the Palakawape is the Hopi modern thriving city inside Hollow Earth. It's one of the cities in the Hollow Earth. So he picked the center door. "You have chosen wisely." And he said, "Go enter." And they walked through it, and the center door took them. As they came out into sunshine, he looked up, and there was a sun that never moved, stayed in position. It was dull in color, not bright like the outer sun, but it was seemed to be cross between you would change colors from blue to a soft orange, and then back to a blue again. But it never moved, never wavered. He said that he met a woman there, fell in love with her, and wanted to marry her, but he said he had to return to the surface to tie up loose ends so he could return. And she agreed. He left with his guide, got back on the conveyance, went back through the door, got back on the conveyance, found themselves in the cavern once again in the Grand Canyon. He said goodbye to Carl Kapabi Waltz. He returned to Los Angeles to tie up his loose ends. Upon returning, Kapabi says, go to the beginning of the trail, the mule trail, call my name and I will appear and take you in. But when he did return, he called Carl's name, but Carl did not appear. So he tried to find the entrance himself in vain. He couldn't find it. So he reluctantly went back to Los Angeles, opened up his business of construction. He was a multi-millionaire. He was the owner of Craftsman Construction, contracting. You can verify that if you like. It's Craftsman Construction in the city of Los Angeles, and they will verify that Hank Craftsman was the owner and CEO of that company. He has long since passed away. He wrote a book called Kapabi, and in that book he gave his description of the path they took going to the opening. When they took him to the opening, he was blindfolded. Upon returning, because he was going to return and remain there, they didn't blindfold him from the time he exited the opening and got back on the mule and went back to the mule trail starting point, and so he was able to see everything. He wasn't blindfolded because his mission was to return and
Billy,
go back in.
Could you spell Kapavi?
Yes, I can. In fact, if you of course you're in front of your computer. If you want to, just go ahead and go to type in this to your search bar. Journey and the T-O, and then Palakawapé, Patkkwapy. You will read his story for yourself.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that later.
Okay.
So have you had any experience in Hollow Earth yourself?
Of course.
Okay, what is that like? Just to give you an example, one of the reasons why I didn't believe this is because I couldn't grasp the physics of it. But as I started studying it, it started making more sense that it's the crust of the Earth that creates gravity. So the people on the outside of the planet experience the gravity down to the center of the crust, and the people on the inside of the planet experience the gravity from the inside of the crust to the center. So then I realized that they're standing upright all the way around the center of the Earth, the way we're standing upright all the way around the surface of the planet. So it started making more sense. So what was it like for you to be there? And why did you come back?
Well, like I said, I came back because I had to, but believe me, I didn't want to. I wanted to stay there. But also, you have to understand that the Hollow Earth is fifth dimensional. You can go there physically, but your body will be changed when you enter. It changes from in Admiral Byrd's case, it changed from the third to the fifth dimension as his aircraft entered into the North Polar opening. When you go into the North Polar opening, halfway around the North Polar opening, everything changes. Your density lightens. Your body begins to feel tingly, and like a tingling sensation. And then as you continue going around into the hollow earth, your body changes. You will discover that when you do this, that your body begins to feel, how do you put it, exhilarated, energized. Wow. It's hard to explain, but when you go inside, your body changes from the third dimension into a fifth dimensional body, which is much lighter than what you have on the surface. When they brought me and my sister to the surface, our body had to basically phase down to the third dimension in order to remain up here. And it's the same if you went inside. You couldn't remain in the fifth dimensional existence unless your body was permanently changed. Understand?
Right. Hey, explain something. I'm sure this is a question that viewers that are watching right now, they would want me to ask. But what is the apparatus that you put on your head, and what's that for?
Oh, okay. This is a crystal headband, and the crystal headband is to help you focus your energy. It's very when you put it on, if you have headaches and stuff like this, they're gone. If you have, it opens up your third eye, if you will. As you can see, it's centered right over my third eye. It opens up your third eye. It causes your subconscious and conscious minds to think alike or think as one. And when you go into meditation real quick, and you can go in. You can intergalactically, as well as long distance. Intergalactic is pretty long distance, but but other people have them on and wearing them, and are used to wearing them. They can't communicate with each other telepathically,
right?
Because you were born with the ability to communicate telepathically at birth. Did you know that?
No, I didn't, but it makes sense. I mean, I spent most of my early childhood of people telling me, no, you can't do that, no, don't do that, sit down, go here. I was indoctrinated so heavily living in West by God, Virginia, that actually I was kicked out of Sunday school when I was 6 because I asked too many questions. And the question that came up is, when I first went to Sunday school, they started teaching us Genesis. And the Sunday school teacher was saying that God was well pleased, his creation was perfect. And I'm thinking, well, okay, yeah, there's a God. I readily accepted the fact that there was some kind of God, and it's good that he's really pleased with me. But the next Sunday when I went back, he tried to drown us all. And I'm thinking as a young kid, whoa, wait a minute here. This doesn't sound quite too good, you know? And so I was kicked out of Sunday school for asking too many questions. But now I'm older now, and I'm still asking questions.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, when I was I was in school, I got in trouble a lot because I would always ask questions. And we were in science class one day, and the science teacher was talking about the makeup of the earth, the crust, and all this. And then he says, are there any questions? He should not have asked that question, because I raised my hand, and he should never have allowed me to take the floor, because I blew his mind away. I got up and I said, "Why are you lying to us?" And he looked at me and he goes, "What?" I says, "Why are you lying to us?" "Lying to you? What are you talking about?" I said, "You know as well as I do that the earth is not solid, that it is hollow, and it has a central sun that shines out through the polar openings off of ice crystals called crystalline, which creates the halo of light that you term the northern lights.
So
Go to the principal's office."
How old were you then? How old were you?
I was like, well, let's see, maybe 9 or 10, maybe.
So tell me, Billy, tell me about your physical birth. How did that transpire?
In the hollow earth, your physical birth is you're created out of thought. Thought is the creator. Thought always is, and as you think, you are. My guardians or my parental figures, they came together and they wanted to create a life form, another, a child. So they basically sat down, agreed upon it, and it was done. I was conceived, and upon my birth, 3 months compared to 9 months on the surface. So they develop quite rapidly, which is what they were, what they used to. Pregnancy on the surface used to be 3 months as well, but way back in the ancient times. But all that changed after the submission of religion. But anyway, it's 3 months in the interior, and when I was born basically as a toddler, not as a baby.
Right. So how did you end up getting up here to the surface?
Well, that was quite interesting. I was out frolicking in the forest, and enjoying myself, and my guardian, my mother, parent figure, called me in and said, you need to go to the learning center. So I went to the learning center, and they told me, they said, we would like you and your sister to go on a mission. And we asked what the mission was. The mission was to go to the surface. I'd always thought about the surface, but I had not really hadn't been there, of course. But I said, well, what are we going to be doing? He says, you're going to be raised as a surface world family. That you'll be adopted, and you will grow up, and at the right time, you will start your mission. I said, okay, what's the mission? They said, we had an entity here from the surface. He was a noble character by the name of Admiral Byrd. He was a military officer. And he visited here, and we gave him a message to relay to his surface world. He was silenced. He was shut down. They would not allow him to give forth a message out of fear. And when they realized that there was a hollow earth and that we existed, they were shut down, put it under a tight secrecy act. So your mission will be to relay that message. And so I said, okay, I'm game. Why not? Let's do it. So my sister and I agreed, and we were taken to the surface by aeroship. They are circular in pattern, about 150 feet in diameter, 45 feet high, and they are similar to the ones that Bob Lazar described, and they brought us to the surface.